From the economy to immigration, more and more polling data shows worrying numbers for President Trump and Republicans. CNN's chief data analyst Harry Enton is with us now. Harry, how have Americans felt about how the president is doing so far?
You know, I think it's so important to note when you look at Trump's net approval rating, it's been negative in the recent polling, but it just hasn't been the recent polling. Look at this. Look at how long his approval rating has been negative. It's been nearly a year. We're talking over 345 days in the red. And with independents, it's even been worse. I mean, overall, his net approval rating has been between -10 and -20 points in the past few polls, if you take an average of them. But if you look among independents, he's been floating at about -30 points oftentimes. The numbers with independents have been absolutely awful, and I'm just not quite sure how an administration can be politically alive when you have numbers that are that poor.
How about on the issue of the economy?
Yeah, okay. So why did Donald Trump get reelected back in 2024, right? It was the economy, right, James Carville? It's the economy, stupid. Although I'm with a smarty pants right here in Boris Sanchez. I know, I'm so kind. If you look at his net approval rating on the economy, look how long it's been negative for. Over 365 days it's been negative. It's been negative for over a year. So on the issue that he was so strong on in term number one, the issue that got him reelected to the White House, the American people have turned against him. And that is a big reason why, of course, they have turned against him overall. And of course, his numbers on inflation have been even worse than on the economy. And of course, inflation sunk the Joe Biden presidency, and it looks like it's sinking the Donald Trump presidency.
That is stunning in part because Americans feel like affordability continues to be a problem. He also got elected not only on fighting inflation and that key issue of the economy, but also on immigration and closing the southern border. How does that data look?
You know, when Donald Trump first came down that escalator, right, all the way back in 2015, it feels like a lifetime ago, and in some ways it was. You know, it was almost 11 years ago at this point. Immigration, immigration, immigration. And what's so interesting here is the American people have turned against him on immigration as well. And in my opinion, it is all linked back to the ICE protests and, of course, ICE going into these big cities. Because take a look here. How long has his net approval been negative on immigration? Look at that. Since the Los Angeles ICE protests, that was the inflection point. That was the turning point. And now he's been negative, get this, for a very, very long period of time. It's been over 200 days at this point.
So over 200 days on immigration, over a year on the economy. How does this look going into this year's midterm per the prediction markets?
Okay, so I think what's so important to note here is the House, right? The House, the House, the House. And this, to me, gives the entire game away. If you look at the Kalshi prediction market, at this point, what we see is, look at this. We see that the Democrats are overwhelmingly favored to take back the U.S. House of Representatives. It has been right about 4 and 5 odds, 4 and 5 chance for a long period of time. And that's not much of a surprise when Donald Trump is as unpopular as he is, that, of course, there's going to be suffering down ballot for Republicans. And here's the other thing that I will note. It's not just the House that's in trouble.
Oh, wow.
It's the Senate as well. And that, to me, is so interesting because this entire time you look at that map, you say, okay, you know, Republicans, a lot of these seats Democrats need to win. They're in Republican states. But in fact, it turns out, according to Kalshi, we're dealing with right now Democrats' chances on the rise about 2 and 5.
We'll see what that might mean for Trump's the second half of his second term. Harry Enton, thanks.
Today, Vice President J.D. Vance heads to Wisconsin, one of the swingiest of swing states, and on the occasion, a gift from the polling gods. Polls, not just from Wisconsin, a key swing state, but Pennsylvania as well. With us, Chief Data Analyst and Prophet of the Polling Gods, Harry Enton. Thank you very much. So, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, we have brand new numbers. Let's talk about what they're saying about the president.
You know, as Wisconsin and Pennsylvania go, so go the nation. And right now, the president is going down like Sonny Liston. What are we talking about here? Okay, Trump's net approval rating, key swing states in Wisconsin, down negative 10 points. Of course, he won that state by about a point back in 2024. How about Pennsylvania? Down to negative 15 points on the net approval rating in Pennsylvania, a state he won in 2016 and 2024, lost in 2020. As I said, as go Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, so goes the nation. In this case, Donald Trump is going down in both of them.
The last three elections, Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, were basically 50-50 states.
You got it.
So when you see numbers like this, that's actually a fairly big deficit for the president there. What are these states saying about the president on the economy?
Yeah, okay. What is driving these numbers? What is driving President Trump down? It's his handling of the economy. It's this thing that we're seeing nationally impacting in the key swing states. Because just take a look here. Okay, Trump and the economy, swing state voters. Pennsylvania, Trump's economic disapproval rating, 56%. That doesn't work for Republicans. That doesn't work for Donald Trump either. How about in Wisconsin? Say Trump's policies raise inflation. Again, you get the majority, 53%. These numbers tracking very closely with how those voters feel overall in those two key swing states. And again, Donald Trump underwater, his economic disapproval, well more than a majority at this point. And, you know, look at this. Say Trump's policies raise inflation 53%. How do you work with that if you're Donald Trump or Republican?
Now, in Pennsylvania, more than Wisconsin, there are some competitive House races. Pennsylvania could be really key in determining control of the House nationally. What are we seeing there?
Yeah, okay. So, you know, we talk about Donald Trump, but the question is always, does that make its way down ballot? Does that, in fact, impact the House races in Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania? Just take a look here. Okay, U.S. House marches in Pennsylvania. 2024 results look very similar how they voted for president. Republicans won it by 2 points. But look at this. It's a different world. It's a different world. Look at this. The 2026 polling, Democrats ahead by 6 points on the generic ballot in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So what we're seeing up top is funneling its way down ballot. And these are the types of numbers that have to make Democrats jump for joy, because these are the types of numbers that suggest that they are, in fact, going to take back the House come November.
Have you ever pulled a muscle talking about polling?
I have never pulled a muscle. This is the most exercise I ever get.
Okay, let's talk about what the prediction markets are saying about these two states. There are governor's races in both Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. What are some of the predictions?
Yeah, okay, the prediction markets, the Kalshi prediction markets, what do they say? They say Democrats are more than likely not to win both of them. Wisconsin looks like they'll retain it there, 70% chance. Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, of course, very likely going to be a 2028 Democratic candidate for president. Looks like he's going to win there as well, 91% chance. These are the types of numbers that you want to launch off for if you're going to run for president.
In Wisconsin, it's more about winning, period. In Pennsylvania, for Josh Shapiro, he very much wants to run up the score.
You got it exactly right.
Ariel, and thank you very much for that. A lot of news this morning. We'll be right back.
The Odds, brought to you by Kalshi Prediction Market.
So meanwhile, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, which is looking, of course, to take advantage of these poor Republican poll numbers, has announced the first 12 candidates in its program supporting contenders, hoping to flip key GOP-held districts ahead of this year's midterm elections. The so-called Red to Blue program gives additional resources to Democrats running in competitive battleground districts. Candidates include Marine Corps veteran Joanna Mendoza in Arizona, former Iowa State Representative Christina Bohannon, and more. Joining us now, the co-chair of recruitment for the DCCC, Democratic Congressman Jason Crow of Colorado. He is a member of the Armed Services and Intelligence Committees and a combat veteran. Congressman, good morning. Thank you for joining us. You, of course, do not come from a red state, although it wasn't all that long ago that Colorado was a true battleground. But it does seem like that your resume is something of a template, perhaps, for some of these candidates you and the committee are trying to put forth and support in these red districts. So tell us more about that effort. Who are you looking for?
Well, I grew up in a red community. I grew up in a working class community. I worked construction growing up to help pay my way through college. I flipped a seat in 2018 that had never been held by a Democrat. And of course, I served this country working with people from all around the nation. Every different economic background, every race, every ethnicity, I brought those folks together and served and fought. And that's what we need to do. Right? Ultimately, we need to reform not just the Democratic Party, but we need to rebuild a coalition that can win in places that we haven't won in a long time. I mean, this is not hard stuff to think about, right? Like, it's not, the math is not hard, I guess is my point, right? We know we're not winning where we need to win. And unless we start winning in areas that have turned their back on us because we have not delivered for them, we're going to continue in this cycle. So that is the cycle we're looking to break. I've been scouring the country the last year, finding these candidates, talking to them, mentoring them, and it is go time.
Congressman, it's Sam Stein here. I'm going to try to shoehorn two very distinct topics into one. actual question. You were part of the 6 lawmakers that have been targeted by Donald Trump for warning or telling members of the military they don't have to follow unlawful orders. Your lawyer wrote a letter to Jeanine Pirro asking her to preserve records about this. One question is, I'm wondering if there's been any developments on that front. And the second semi-related question is this. There's always this debate within the Democratic Party about how much to focus on kitchen table issues versus how much to focus on Trump and his antics and theatrics and the accusations of lawlessness. You're at the tip of the spear of that latter part. I'm wondering how much this is going to be centralized in the campaign for Democrats writ large.
Yeah, we haven't heard back from DOJ or Pam Bondi, nor do I imagine we will. They're coming at me and Mark Kelly and Alyssa Slotkin, not because of the video, but because of what we represent. The fight we're bringing, that we're going on the offense against them, we're showing strength. We are trying to pierce the veneer of power that is so important to Donald Trump and all around them. Let's not forget that they're trying to extract more power from the American people than they really have. They're trying to dominate. They're trying to...
Republicans are taking serious losses. This new data feels like a cold right. Total emergency mood, hit the alarm, run for the exits, game over. You can see it in swing states, special elections, and even in traditionally red states. And this is bad for Republicans for several reasons. It forces them to expand their map and play defense in more places, which means less money and fewer resources for the usual swing districts. Now, they have to spend in seats that were once considered safely, right, but aren't looking to go safe anymore. Democrats are polling high, partly because some of them are energizing voters, but also because many people simply dislike Donald Trump and the GOP. Even voters who aren't big fans of Democrats are thinking, I just really can't stand Trump. Because of that, many seats are at risk of flipping. Of course, traditional swing districts are in play, but so are red states, Senate seats, and typically red areas inside blue states, like parts of New York and California, that could turn blue for the first time in years, and a lot of this is tied to Trump's deep unpopularity. If this were a normal midterm map, Republicans might say we need to defend about 20 House seats and a few Senate seats, and we have the money to do it. But now, they could be looking at defending 50 or even 60 seats. That doesn't mean they will lose 60, but they could lose from a pool that large, and they won't know which ones are most vulnerable. So they'll have to spread resources everywhere. The same goes for Senate races in purple states and even lower level contests like governor and state races. Republicans may simply not have the resources to stop what looks like a growing blue wave.